This is the assessment guidance for the Level 5 module, Preparation for Counselling and Psychotherapy Skills. We're going to look at the assignment expectations, the structure of the essay, and have a closer look at the task breakdown. So the assignment title is Describe the main features of process experiential, emotion-focused therapy, and compare and contrast this to classical person-centered therapy. And the assessment deadline is Tuesday the 24th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. The assessment is worth 100% of the overall mark, and we're expecting you to use 1.5 line spacing on your assignment, and references need to be formatted in accordance with APA 7. The submission for this assessment is going to be via Blackboard. Turnitin is enabled, so we will be able to check the academic integrity of your work. We're expecting the work to be presented with the following components: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. If you wish to use subheadings, by all means do, if that helps you to structure your work further. And we have a word count of 2,500 words. Additionally, there is a grading matrix available within the assessment folder on Blackboard, which gives you an idea, an insight around how your work is going to be marked. So there's some key approaches that we need to use to complete this assignment. And just as a starting point, the Salford skills section, which is there's a link available within our Blackboard site, it really gives you some e-learning modules that will help you kind of format your work, improve the academic integrity, and also support you with your academic writing. But we're just going to take a closer look now at these three approaches of critical analysis, evaluation, and synthesis. So to critically analyse something, we are introducing other theories and ideas that may contradict or contrast the original argument and offer some kind of criticism to that. And when we critically analyse and evaluate, and in this case the theoretical models, what we're doing is deconstructing. We're breaking down the theory, we're acknowledging the implications of both approaches, and also understanding how breaking down the application of both theories and how that is in practice. So when we're evaluating it, we're looking for areas that relate and contrast, but also look at how it's different. What is making emotion-focused therapy different from person-centered? But to kind of examine things a little bit further, we can understand why these kind of theoretical models exist. You know, how does it complement the society that we're living in, or even kind of support intersectionality of our clients? You know, having that maybe the focus of cultural viewpoints, maybe spiritual viewpoints, or even like the social viewpoints and norms that are associated with clients. When we're examining things, we'll also, and you will need to, is address the strengths and limitations of both models. And this is, again, there's a lot there to kind of bring in and interpret within your work. So synthesis is really important. And again, what we're doing with synthesizing materials, we're investigating the model through different sources. We're widening our understanding of what those models are and the key developments from that. But synthesizing it, we're creating connections, okay? And when we find those connections, we need to really underpin those ideas with our research, maybe with case studies, to really bring those elements to life. And ultimately, what we need to do is kind of create a conclusive view of how person-centered and EFT relates, but also about its main differences. So adding criticality is a really important element that needs to feature within your submission. And criticality refers to the approach of not accessing information at face value. It's basically you are questioning the validity and the reliability of the sources. You're understanding it, the different perspective, and recognizing maybe the limitations of that research in relation to your subject area. Okay, it's more about offering analysis and having evidence to support that analysis. What I don't want to see is a kind of descriptive narrative around both theoretical models. So when we're analysing, we're evaluating the strengths and the weaknesses of the arguments that you're presenting, and the contrast within each model, but also, introducing an alternate view adds extra depth to it and becomes another main feature of criticality. You need to be able to engage with research and a variety of different ideas or models in order to offer criticality within your work. Making claims, forming arguments and assumptions, and connecting it to the research that you've accessed really, again, it enhances the depth of the work that you do. And contextualization is so important here, because bringing case studies in, bringing real life within your work helps to create a more detailed picture of both those approaches, but also it could be valuable elements that will inform your work going forward as a counsellor. Considering there's lots to draw upon in terms of what needs to be included within your work, structuring your essay is really important. And the Peel approach may support you in terms of writing concisely and making sure you're getting the right kind of points across, and creates a kind of a clear structure and flow to your work. So the Peel approach starts with you making the point of and setting the scene. It'd be that presenting idea or an argument, okay, and it's also directly addressing the main title of your work. So the exploration and elaboration is that point where you can start to bring in those wider viewpoints that you've been accessing, okay, which will either like prove your point or present a broader context to the work itself. And when we add evidence in, we're supporting those facts with examples, quotes, and research. Those elements, that evidence is there to back up your point. Okay. And also, it's then leading into creating wider links within the work that you've presented, or even making the connection of to a next point that you wish to make in relation to the assignment going forwards. So let's look at the task breakdown. Okay. So overall, we want to critically analyse humanistic philosophy and the principles that underpin the person-centred approach. You'll need to demonstrate criticality regarding both theory and practice, and you'll demonstrate a critical understanding of person-centred theory and present a balanced view in relation. Impartiality is really important. You will demonstrate an evidence of wider reading by accessing evidence in relation to process experiential or emotion-focused therapy, and make comparisons to person-centered approach. And further criticality will be achieved by contrasting the two models and highlighting the areas of difference when working within the client. So the way we need to do this is to deconstruct, evaluate, and then examine humanistic philosophy as an overview, but then building on that in terms of person-centered. So you need to bring the main core components of the person-centered approach and how that how that informs practice, how it connects to humanistic philosophy. But we need to also make links from philosophy and from the person-centered approach to the concepts of building that therapeutic support. So it could be, connecting to the necessary conditions of change. We could be looking at the propositions. But this is about presenting a picture of how that is applied within counselling practice. We need to think about the strengths and limitations of the person-centered approach too. So we have this picture now of humanistic and person-centered approach. What we then need to do is apply the same principles to motion-focused therapy. So we need to deconstruct, we need to break down what EFT is about. Okay, we need to understand its application in practice. We need to look at the strengths and limitations of those approaches and how it supports client exploration and the client work. But the next thing and the standout feature about this is that once you've established that understanding around both models, is now bringing those two things together and thinking, actually, where do the links feature here? What is, is there any themes that you're seeing, any connections in terms of how the approaches work? Is there anything that's incredibly different about each of those models? And throughout this breakdown of both models, bringing in research, bringing in the case studies around the client work centered around each of these processes would be really important to bring this work to life, and is to inform your work going forward as a person-centered therapist. So Blackboard is the hub for assessment support. Okay, so I just want to focus on that. We've got a Padlet, which is in the assessment folder, where you can ask questions. I'm going to be checking it regularly and answering them. We've got a tutorials meet that will be happening during reflection week, and we've also we'll have me available during the lectures on the Thursday, every other Thursday. And again, that could be the opportunity for you to open dialogue around your assessment and your progress. We've got personal development and skills workshops that are happening every other week. That needs to be protected time towards your skills development and towards your personal development. And if you choose to ask questions to your tutors around the assignment, they will just direct you to Padlet. So please take every opportunity to either email me, use the Padlet, or see me during those lecture slots to get the support that you need. And again, my email is m.a.haig@salford.ac.uk. I will respond as soon as possible, or arrange Teams meetings to support you going forwards. Thanks very much.